Maik can travel fast across the land. Some lazy types take carriages. It is all the same to Maik.
Grab your sword, ready your spells, and strap on your traveling boots, because it's time to start a new adventure in Skyrim. From the massive glaciers of the north to the deep forests of the south, there's adventure around every corner in the land of the Nords, and something for just about everyone. When you begin your adventures across the frosty landscape, though, the number of options and degree of freedom in Skyrim can be overwhelming for some players. If by chance you're lost and feel you need some pointers for what to do first, or if you're looking for tips to gain an edge during your first few hours in the game, then look no further. In this guide, we'll cover both basic tips for total newcomers to the game, and some precision advice that even veterans might not know. The first bit of advice to give is in regards to character creation. Even though you can be whoever you want to be and play as you like, the race you choose during character creation can influence your experience to a good extent. If you want the full list of details over the 10 various races and what their strengths and weaknesses are, you can check the description for a complete guide over the topic. However, the condensed answer to what you should play as boils down to either a Nord or a High Elf. The reason for this is Nords are naturally resistant to frost damage, which comes in handy often in a frozen landscape with elemental enemies. Meanwhile, Altmers start with significantly more magicka for casting spells. Ultimately though, what race you play as won't make or break your experience, so don't feel pressured to play a character you don't really like. Now, after completing the game's introduction, you'll emerge from a small cave into Skyrim's landscape, with a companion who helps you during the tutorial. It's at this point that you can turn on your heel and go off in any direction you choose, but if this is your first playthrough, it's advisable you follow your friend to the nearby village of Riverwood. On the way, you'll learn about the Guardian Stones, more about those in a moment, and get some help from the locals who your friend knows. While in the village, you should also visit the local trader to pick up a quest leading to a nearby dungeon called Bleak Falls Barrow. This is a location you have to visit sooner or later during the main story, so it's worth visiting and getting the reward from the trader for sorting out his problem at the same time. After clearing the dungeon, you can then head to the city of Whiterun to talk to the Jarl and cash in a reward for not only seeking him out, but also for bringing him an artifact found on the boss in Bleak Falls Barrow. Doing this also leads to you learning what makes you a special hero, which isn't a bad thing to discover either. That's the basic advice if you're totally new to the game. However, if you're more of a free spirit and don't want to do the typical starting routine, then here are some special tips so you can have an edge as the game starts. First though, one final small bit of advice for any totally new newcomers to Skyrim. If you need to reach any one of the major cities during the early game, as a lot of the advice in this video requires you to, you can cheaply buy passage through a carriage. There's a carriage driver just outside of every major city, which links all of the major cities together. Also, once you discover a location, you can fast travel or warp back to it for free just by selecting its icon on the map screen. That's that for the newbie advice, so let's move on to something that will greatly affect your adventures no matter what. Birth signs and the standing stones. In the Elder Scrolls, there are 13 birth signs that correspond with celestial bodies, and being a hero in control of your own destiny, you can choose which of these signs to live by. To do so, you simply need to find what's called a standing stone, and activate it to call power down from the heavens to bless you. If you want full information on all of the standing stones, where they are and what they do, you can check the description for a complete video over the topic. In most cases though, the best stone, or blessing to have, is that of the Steed. The Steed Stone is located northwest of Solitude, not too far from Wolfskull Cave. The blessing it confers makes the armor you wear weightless, removes movement penalties from wearing armor, and increases your carry limit by 100 points. Other stones do other things, but by far the Steed Stone will likely benefit most people just seeking adventure. Now, while carrying things around is all good and well, leveling up is also important in an RPG, and you can get a tailwind to how fast you improve your skills by being well rested. You gain the well rested bonus by sleeping in a bed for any length of time, and it will last for 8 in-game hours. This makes it a good idea to take a small nap whenever you find a bed in any cave, fort, or ruin you run through. However, there are graduated levels to the rested bonus. Sleeping in any bed gives you a 5% boost to leveling, while sleeping in a bed you own gives you a 10% boost. And if you get married, then sleep with your other half, you gain a 15% boost. This is a nuanced system to help you level faster, so just keep it in mind as you play, as getting any boost is better than getting none. Of course, the rested bonus is no good if you don't go out and adventure to level up, which is why the next thing to cover is how to get a quality early game weapon. Assuming you're not planning on being a spellcaster, the weapon you wield at the start of the game can be the most important thing you sort out. If you're interested in using one-handed arms, your best bet is to acquire a scimitar, which does a modest amount of damage for an early game blade. To find one at level 1, get yourself out to Solitude, then head north along the coast to a ship called the Dainty Slode. All you have to do is kill one of the coursers on deck who carries a scimitar and take it off them. You don't even have to go inside of the ship. That being said, you will net some nice treasure if you go into the hold. Now, in the event you're interested in using a bow during combat, the best string to pluck at the beginning of the game is a Forsworn bow. This arm does a modest amount of damage for an early game bow, and it also has a faster reload animation which allows you to knock and fire arrows faster. The quickest way to acquire one is to kill a Forsworn archer just outside of Markarth at a location around the corner from Kolskegger Mine. Leaving Markarth, follow the road away from the city and turn left when you reach a large bridge with a signpost. Just outside of a small house down the road, 3 Forsworn will spawn, one of which will have a bow. It shouldn't be too much trouble to eliminate the interlopers and nab the weapon, but just to be sure, save before you encounter them. Also, another good tip. Steel arrows are good ammunition at the beginning of the game, and city guards are all equipped with them. If you have no problem with stealing and maybe getting caught, there's nothing to stop you from sneaking into a guard barracks and lifting arrows from all the sleeping watchmen. And also, you'll be practicing your pickpocket skill at the same time. The last type of weapon to look for is that of two-handed. Your best option in this case is to grab a Dawnguard Warhammer, which, while being slow to swing, delivers a massive amount of damage and is comparable to many late-game broadswords. Quickly though, it's worth mention that this weapon is from the Dawnguard DLC, which can be bought on its own, but also comes packed into the Ultimate, Game of the Year, and Special Editions of Skyrim. Anyway, the hammer is located at Fort Dawnguard, southeast of Riften. To find the location, you need to head to Riften, then follow the road to the southeast. Not far from the edge of the map after you cross a bridge, there will be a small, unmarked cave on the north side of the road, flanked by 2 braziers. Head inside, and not that far into the canyon beyond, you'll find Fort Dawnguard. The warhammer you're after is located on the roof next to a grindstone. For the sake of detail, the roof is accessed from inside the fort via a spiral staircase around the corner and to the left from the main entrance. That would normally be it, but since you now know where Fort Dawnguard is, it's also worth mentioning that you can pick up 2 other weapons on the exact same roof. First is a Dawnguard War Axe, which there are 2 of, both sitting in weapon racks. The War Axe does as much damage as the earlier mentioned Scimitar, but also delivers bonus damage against vampires as a small plus. The other weapon is the crossbow, which is also held on weapon racks on the roof. The crossbow is worth considering because it competes with late-game bows for damage, and it also ignores 50 points of armor by default. The negative, however, is how, due to its mechanical nature, the crossbow makes significantly more noise, and if you rely on stealth, it's a less favorable option as an archer. In addition, the bolts you need can only be smithed at a special forge in Fort Dawnguard, and you can only access it by siding with the Dawnguard faction during the Dawnguard DLC, which limits your options for ammo, and, for obvious reasons, is something to consider. That's everything for starter weapons, no matter if you're interested in one-handed, two-handed, or bows. Now, let's move on to something more universally useful. They say that money makes the world go round, and with an amulet of Zenithar equipped, you gain a 10% boost to how cheap or expensive prices are when you buy or sell. You can find one of these amulets by heading to Riften and trekking north from the main gate. When you reach the last watchtower, hang a right and go up a small hill to find a shrine to Zenithar where the amulet sets. Just be certain to watch out, as the shrine is usually guarded by some kind of beast. It's also worth mention that you can activate the shrine the necklace is next to gain another blessing that gives you an additional 10% changes to price. If you're interested in making as much money as possible, it's a good idea to stack the effect of the pendant and the shrine whenever possible. Now, strongly related to the blessing that Zenithar gives you for money is the transmutation spell. Most magic in Skyrim is learned from court wizards or the College of Winterhold, but a select few spells can only be found, and the alteration spell Trasmute is one of them. This spell, when cast, will first remove 1 silver ore from your inventory and replace it with 1 gold ore. Or, in the absence of silver, it will instead remove 1 iron ore and replace it with a silver ore. You can see how valuable this spell is to have. To find this precious transmutation spell, you'll want to head to the Halted Stream camp, located just northwest of Whiterun. A quick tip before you seek the place out though. Usually, if you check the tavern in Riverwood or Whiterun and ask the bartender about work, you'll find that there's often a bounty on the leader of the bandits holed up at this camp. Anyway, bounty or no, you just need to show up, kill all the bandits both out and inside the mine, then look on the north side of the main room to find the Trasmute tome on a table across from the main loot chest. One extra bit of advice though. This spell is a bit expensive to cast, so if you want to spam it, it's useful to know you can regen all of your magicka by using the wait command for 1-hour intervals. Though there's far more to the game of Skyrim, the tips covered here are unavoidably valuable and should always be considered by anyone beginning a new adventure. If by chance you're more interested in endgame information though, you can check out a series of guides over more high-level challenges and secrets in the description below. Until next time, thanks for watching and listening. I'm William Strife, and I'll see you later.